When I think back to that night, the night he proposed, I can still hear the sound of applause, the gasps, the cheers, the flash of camera phones. It was perfect, almost too perfect, the kind of scene that looks rehearsed for social media. But in that moment, I didn't care. I was overwhelmed, dizzy with happiness, and when he went down on one knee, I remember thinking, this is it. This is what forever feels like. His name was Ethan Kessler, the man everyone loved, successful, charming, articulate, in that effortless way that made people lean in when he spoke. We'd met 3 years earlier at a friend's gallery opening. He'd spilled wine on my shoes, offered to replace them, and somehow that turned into dinner, then coffee, then late-night calls that lasted until morning. He had this gravity about him. When he looked at you, it felt like you were the only person in the room. And I, of course, fell for it, hard. That night, under the soft glow of fairy lights at my parents' house, surrounded by friends, family, colleagues, he gave a speech about finding the one person who makes life make sense. Then he pulled out a small velvet box and opened it. Inside was a delicate ring, platinum band, oval diamond, a vintage design with tiny side stones curling like vines. It looked old in a beautiful way. Timeless. My breath caught. Ethan. He smiled that disarming smile. Marry me, Grace. Everyone shouted, say yes, and I did. I said yes through tears and laughter and the kind of joy that makes your chest ache. I remember my mother hugging me, whispering, he adores you, sweetheart. You can see it in his eyes. And I believed her. I believed everything. For the next few weeks, I floated. Every morning, I'd glance at the ring, the way it sparkled in sunlight, and smile like a fool. Ethan was attentive, sending flowers, planning our engagement party, telling me how lucky he was. I'd catch him staring at me sometimes, that faint, unreadable smile on his lips. I thought it was love. Then, one afternoon, something shifted. I was in Ethan's apartment, the one he'd bought before we met, organizing a few things for our future move-in. He'd left for a client meeting, and I was dusting the shelves in his study when I found an old photo frame turned face down. It wasn't hidden exactly, just placed, deliberately, almost respectfully. Curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up, and my stomach turned. It was Ethan, kneeling, smiling, holding the same ring next to a blonde woman I didn't recognize. The background looked like a beach. She was crying, laughing, saying yes. For a long moment, I couldn't move. The photo trembled in my hands. My heart beat so hard it hurt. I flipped the frame over and saw a faint engraving on the back. To Mia. Forever starts here. Mia. The name hit me like a slap. I'd heard that name before, briefly, once, when Ethan mentioned an ex who'd hurt him deeply. He'd said it casually, in a story about how he'd learned to trust again. I hadn't pressed for details, thinking it was private. But now, that name was engraved on my engagement ring? I sat on the edge of his couch, staring at the photo, the ring on my finger suddenly feeling heavy, wrong. My hands were shaking. When he came home that evening, I didn't confront him right away. I watched him move around the kitchen, laughing, pouring us wine, humming to himself. I studied his face, the face I'd loved, trusted, and wondered how much of it had been an act. Finally, I said, Ethan, who's Mia? He froze. The bottle in his hand tilted slightly before he caught it. What? Mia, I repeated, the name engraved on this. I slipped off the ring and placed it on the counter. His eyes darted to it, then back to me. Where did you see that? So, it is hers? I said quietly. He exhaled, setting the bottle down. Grace, it's not what you think. Then what is it? He rubbed his temples. That ring, it belonged to my grandmother. I proposed to Mia with it years ago, yes, but when she ended things, she gave it back. I didn't think it mattered. It's an heirloom. An heirloom, I repeated, the word sour on my tongue. Then why didn't you tell me? Why hide the inscription? He sighed, stepping closer. Because it's meaningless now. You're the one I love, Grace. That past, it doesn't matter anymore. But it did matter. Because love built on lies is just decoration overwrought. I stared at him, at the way his eyes stayed steady, practiced. He wasn't apologizing. He was managing the situation, like a man handling PR damage. "I need some air," I whispered, and walked out. For 3 days, I stayed at my friend Leah's apartment. She was blunt, fiercely loyal, and the kind of friend who always saw the truth faster than I wanted to. "Grace, he didn't just reuse the ring," she said. "He reused the entire moment. That's not love. That's laziness." I tried defending him at first, the heirloom excuse, the misunderstanding, but even as I spoke, the words sounded hollow. That's when Leah did something I'll forever thank her for. She pulled up her laptop, opened social media, and typed Mia plus Ethan Kessler. Within minutes, there it was, photos from 5 years ago. The same beach, the same sunset, the same ring, and worse, the same speech. The caption under one post read, "He said, I'm the one who makes life make sense." My blood went cold. He hadn't even changed the words. The heartbreak turned to something sharper, not just pain, rage. That night, as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, a new thought took root. He'd humiliated me privately, but the world saw him as perfect. The devoted fiancé, the romantic. If he could craft an illusion that powerful, I could dismantle it, and I'd do it in a way he'd never forget. Over the next few weeks, I played my part perfectly. I returned his calls, met him for dinner, even laughed at his jokes. He was relieved, smug even. He thought my silence meant forgiveness. Meanwhile, I was preparing. I reached out to Mia using the contact info from one of those old posts. It took days for her to reply, and when she did, her message was short. "If this is about the ring, I'm happy to talk." We met at a small cafe downtown. She was poised, elegant, the kind of woman who carried heartbreak gracefully. "I'm guessing he told you it was an heirloom?" she asked dryly, stirring her coffee. I nodded. She laughed bitterly. "He said that to me, too. The truth? He bought that ring for me. I designed it. The engraving was my idea." I blinked. "He said it was his grandmother's." "Ethan doesn't have a grandmother," she said flatly. And just like that, the last thread of illusion snapped. I told her everything, the proposal, the party, the upcoming engagement celebration he was planning. When I finished, she looked at me thoughtfully. "You're not the first," she said quietly, "but maybe you'll be the last." We exchanged numbers. And that's when my plan started forming. Not cruel, not violent, but precise. A mirror held up to his lies. Ethan wanted admiration, applause, validation. So I'd take the one thing he valued most, his image. Our engagement party was set for late June at the Ravensdale Hotel, a sleek rooftop venue overlooking the city. He'd arranged everything, catering, music, speeches, hundreds of guests, all to celebrate us. The day before the event, I met with the hotel's AV technician. I told him I had a special video montage to play during my toast, something sentimental. He smiled and said he'd cue it when I gave the signal. Inside that file wasn't a montage. It was a truth reel. Photos, screenshots, and one very specific image. Ethan proposing to Mia with my ring. When the night finally came, I wore a pale gold dress, soft, understated, like innocence wrapped in silk. Ethan couldn't take his eyes off me. "You look beautiful," he murmured. "So you," I said, smiling. Everything unfolded like a dream. Guests mingled, champagne flowed, laughter sparkled through the air. Ethan made his speech first, polished, charming, thanking everyone for their support, calling me the love of his life. Then he handed me the microphone. "Grace, darling, say a few words," he said with that easy smile. I stood, my heart pounding, not from nerves, but anticipation. I took a breath and smiled at the crowd. "First of all, thank you all for being here tonight," I began. "It means the world to celebrate love with the people we care about most." Polite applause. Ethan watched me proudly, unaware. "And speaking of love," I continued, I've learned something important these past few weeks. Love is about honesty, about truth, and sometimes truth has a way of revealing itself when you least expect it. I glanced toward the technician and nodded. The lights dimmed slightly. The screen behind us flickered to life. At first, it showed a photo of Ethan and me, smiling, happy. Then another, the proposal, the ring. A murmur went through the crowd. Then the next slide appeared. The beach, the sunset, Mia, the same ring. Gasps rippled through the room. Ethan's smile froze. He turned toward me, confusion giving way to horror. The reel continued, side-by-side images, our engagement and his last one, identical gestures, identical captions, and finally, the close-up shot of the inscription, "To Mia, forever starts here." The crowd was silent, except for the soft whir of the projector. I turned back to Ethan, my voice steady. "So here's to second chances," I said, "to honesty, to growth, and to knowing that some people don't deserve either." A single ripple of nervous laughter ran through the guests. Then whispers, dozens of them. Ethan stood, his face pale. "Grace, what is this?" I smiled faintly. "It's the truth, Ethan. You like performing? I thought you'd appreciate the encore." He reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Don't touch me," I said quietly, but everyone heard it. Cameras flashed. Within minutes, people were excusing themselves, murmuring apologies, avoiding his gaze. His perfect image cracked, right there under the glittering lights he'd so carefully arranged. He left without saying another word. The next morning, my phone was flooded with messages. Friends, coworkers, even strangers who'd heard about the engagement party reveal. Someone had recorded it, of course. It went viral within hours. The internet loves justice, with a side of spectacle. Ethan tried to reach me. Calls, texts, even a letter left at my office. I ignored them all. He eventually disappeared from social circles altogether. His business, built partly on reputation, took a hit. No one wanted to work with a man who recycled promises. As for me, I didn't gloat, not out loud at least. Revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about clarity, about reclaiming your story. Months later, I got a message from Mia. Just 3 words. "He saw the video." I replied, "Good." Life moved on after that. I took time for myself. Therapy, travel, quiet mornings. The ring, I sold. Donated the money to a women's shelter. People sometimes ask if I regret how I handled it. I don't. Because he humiliated me in silence, I returned the favor in truth. And the truth, when delivered right, is its own kind of revenge. You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.